Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and today I'm doing my Smutathon wrap-up. Smutathon was hosted by Riley, Marie, and Lainey, and it took place from June 3rd to the 9th. I ended up vlogging my whole experience throughout the week, reading all the books that I did, and that will be up on Wednesday if you guys are curious to see that one. But today I'm just going to be talking about all the books that I read and tell you how I rated them and what challenges they fulfilled and kind of a brief synopsis of each one. I'll link all these books down below, and I'd love to hear if you guys participated in Smutathon, and let's get right into it. So the first book that I read is The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. This is the first book in the Girl Meets Duke series, and this one I actually really loved. I wasn't really expecting to love a historical romance, and this was my first foray into this genre. And this fulfilled a ton of different challenges. It would be Other Worlds, takes place in a foreign country. It is a host favorite. It is out of my comfort zone because it's historical romance. It's also a new to me author, as well as fake dating / marriage of convenience. This story is about the Duke of Ashbury, who goes by Ash, and he was badly burned in war, and his fiance left him right before they were supposed to be married, and he needs to get married in order to produce an heir, and he's kind of screwed when his fiance leaves him. And the heroine of this story is Emma. She's a seamstress, and she made this big beautiful dress for Ash's wedding, and when she finds out that they broke up, she really still needs to get paid in order to live and pay her rent. So she shows up at his castle dressed in this extravagant gown and demands that she's paid for this dress. And what do you know, Ash decides that they should get married, that she's already in a dress, so he says, "Marry me, we can create an heir, and you'll never have to worry about money again." And surprisingly enough, Emma says yes, and it's kind of their love story from there. They had such a great hate to love little marriage of convenience romance. I loved the romance between them. Their banter was just so witty, and I thought Emma was so stubborn, and I loved that about her. And Ash was pretty sarcastic, and I just found myself laughing out loud while reading this, which I was not expecting. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next book that I read is Intercepted by Alexa Martin. This is the first book in the Playbook series, and this is Alexa Martin's debut novel. This fulfills the challenge of reading a one-word title as well as reading a book by an author of a person of color. This is about a girl named Marley, and she's been dating her boyfriend who's an NFL star for the past 10 years, and while everyone around her is getting married, he has yet to propose, and she's kind of been patiently waiting. And all of a sudden she discovers that he's been two-timing her, and she leaves him and kind of sets out to never date a football star again because it was just so much trouble. But the same team that her ex plays for, they bring on a new quarterback, and his name is Gavin, and it turns out it's a guy that she had a one-night stand with years prior, and she was never expecting to see him again, and it's basically them reuniting, and it's their romance. And at first I really enjoyed this because it was really humorous. I really liked Alexa Martin's writing, but the main character Marley writes hashtags about her life, and that carried on throughout the whole book, like every single chapter, and it got pretty old. And I found this story was actually more about the drama between the NFL spouses rather than the romance between Gavin and Marley. And I just wish it was more about the romance and less about the drama. But I do think that Alexa Martin's writing does have some promise, so I want to give the next book in the series, Fumbled, a chance. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars. The next book that I read is Ache by S.M. Soto, and this one fulfills the challenge of a one-word title as well as a new-to-me author and a second chance romance. This story is about a girl named Bea who, when she was 13 years old, she had a lot of change going on that summer. First of all, her mom got married, and her stepdad and stepbrother Connor moved in with them. And that was a big change because she had always been used to just living with her mom. And then secondly, her next door neighbor is her best friend, and her best friend's cousin Liam moves in with them, and so that kind of changes the dynamic of her and her best friend. And she's instantly connected with Liam, and she has a huge crush on him, and he's a couple years older than them. And over the next 3 years, this relationship forms between them, starting out as friends and becoming more than friends, but they are torn apart after 3 years. And you know this because we're jumping dual timeline between when she's 13 getting to know Liam, as well as I think it's 9 years later when she's 22, and it's been 6 years since she's seen Liam, and her life has changed a lot. Bea's life has become a personal hell, and she kind of doesn't want to live anymore, and this life is just really hard for her. And that's where Liam comes back in. He comes to visit his cousin, and he's right next door to Bea yet again, and it is their second chance romance, as well as this growth story with Bea. She starts out being very weak and a victim, and she ends up being much stronger and not a victim anymore. And this is a very heavy book, so if you're not into hard-hitting topics, this one wouldn't be for you. Trigger warning for things like sexual abuse, sexual violence, and for childhood, adult. It's just overall really hard to read, but I think it was really a good read and really important to read, and I enjoyed it as much as I can say that about this topic. I thought I was going to cry or something like that because a lot of people said they got emotional. I personally didn't, but I still really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read is Irresistible by Melanie Harlow. This is the first book in the Cloverleaf Farms series, and this is about a girl named Franny who's 27 years old, and she is the youngest, I think, of 5 sisters, and her parents own their own business called Cloverleaf Farms. It's an inn and a winery and things like that, and they have weddings there. And all of her sisters are a little bit older than her, and they have all been successful, whether it's career, family, marriages, and they've all spread their wings and kind of done their own independent thing. Whereas Franny has never. She's always still lived at home. She works for her parents, and she's never really been independent. And that's because she was super sheltered as a kid due to a heart condition she was born with. And so she never really had the chance to go off and do the things she wanted. And now at 27, she's feeling a little stifled by everything around her. And the hero in our story, his name is Mac. He was actually featured in the 3rd book in the One and Only series by this author, and I was so excited when I figured out that he was going to be in Cloverleaf Farms series. And Mac is an ex-Marine, and he has 3 daughters, all under the age of 12, and 9 months ago his wife walked out and left him a single dad and hasn't helped with any of the parenting since, and he's pretty overwhelmed with parenting and keeping up a job and just his overall life. And he is 37 years old, and he is the CFO for Cloverleaf Farms, and he works with Franny and her father, and he's known Franny a while, and occasionally she nannies for him. Due to his normal nanny getting injured, he asks Franny to nanny for him more frequently, and they are kind of thrust into each other's lives more, and clearly they have feelings for each other, but it is forbidden on all topics because she is his nanny, she's a co-worker, she's the boss's daughter, and there's a 10-year age gap between them. But they definitely have a lot of heat between them and sexual tension, and it's their romance. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I cannot wait to finish this series. And then this counts for the challenges of one-word title as well as a forbidden romance. The next book that I read is On the Rocks by Candy Steiner, and I got an ARC of this from the publisher, and I'm so happy I got to read it. It comes out June 13th, but the paperback was released early, and so I'm really excited that I got to read this one. This one I would consider a bad boy romance. I'm counting it for the bad boy trope. And this is about a Southern belle named Ruby Grace. She's 19 years old. Her dad is the mayor of their small town of Stratford, and she is back home from college because she's engaged to be married to a politician or a future politician, and kind of fulfilling her parents' wishes and pushing her wishes to the wayside. And Ruby Grace goes to the local whiskey distillery to get a gift for her fiance, and she meets Noah. He's a little older than her. He's worked at the whiskey distillery for years as a barrel raiser, and he's a little bit of a bad boy and a playboy, and there's this banter between the two, and they end up somehow becoming friends, and of course there's a romance between them. And Ruby Grace sees a side of Noah that many people don't, and she feels that Noah understands her in a way that her fiance and her family doesn't, and is also a little forbidden because she's engaged and a little bit of a love triangle. And I ended up loving this one. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I'm so happy to hear that is the start of a new series, and the second one comes out this fall. The next book that I read is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, and this one counts for a few different challenges. It is a enemies to lovers romance, a traveling vacation romance, as well as a fake dating, fake newlywed romance. This is about a girl named Olive who her twin sister is getting married, and she's the maid of honor, and she's the unlucky twin, whereas her twin Ami is always the lucky twin. And basically she won this wedding for free and all these things for free, whereas Olive is pretty unlucky. And the only bummer about this wedding for Olive is that Ethan, the best man and the brother of the groom, is going to be there, and they really don't like each other, and so they have to deal with each other at this wedding. And there's a seafood buffet at this wedding, and the only 2 people not to eat the seafood buffet are Ethan and Olive, and it turns out it was contaminated, so everyone in the bridal party and the wedding party, everyone gets sick, and the bride and groom are unable to take their honeymoon because they're so ill. So the bride says, you guys should take our honeymoon and kind of go enjoy yourselves for once. And so they decide to take this honeymoon together, even though Ethan and Olive hate each other, and they have to pretend to be newlyweds on this trip to Maui. And this was so funny, and I loved the romance between the two of them. I don't want to say much else. I just thought it was so enjoyable, and I ended up giving this one 5 stars. The next book that I read is Him by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. This counts for a few different challenges as well. It's a new to me author, a one-word title, an LGBTQ plus book, as well as a friends to lovers romance. And this one I ended up really enjoying. It's the first in a duet by this author duo, the Him duet, and the second book is called Us. And this is a hockey friends to lovers romance. It's about 2 people named Jamie and Wes who went to hockey camp together for years when they were teenagers, and right before they graduated high school, when they were in the camp, something changed between them and it ruined their friendship. And now it's been 4 years and they haven't seen each other, and they're both playing hockey for different colleges, and now it's the Frozen Four, like a playoffs type of game, and their 2 colleges are playing each other, and they're basically brought back together, and they decide to try and be friends. And that summer they return to the camp where they met, they coach together and end up rooming together, and it is their romance. So good, so steamy. This is a new adult romance. I haven't read one in a while, and I kind of forgot how steamy they are. And man, this one's so good, and I can't wait to read the next in the series, and I gave it 4.5 stars. The next book that I read is The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory, and this counts for reading a book by a person of color author. And this is the second book in the Wedding Date Companion series, and it features a character from the first book named Carlos, who was really good friends with the main character in the first book, and he's a pediatrician. The main lady in the story is Nick, and Nick goes to a baseball game with her boyfriend, and she expects just to have a normal day with her boyfriend. It's his birthday, and he ends up proposing to her on like the big screen over the field, and she's really unexpecting it, and she ends up saying no. And he kind of storms out and leaves her to deal with the aftermath of that, and everyone's kind of swarming her, and lo and behold, Carlos and his sister are sitting behind her, and they save her from this crowd, and they take her out of the stadium, and they all go out for drinks. And Carlos and Nick have an instant connection, but Nick is kind of swearing off relationships. She doesn't want to date right now, and it is their romance. It was really cute. I didn't love Nick, but I really loved Carlos. I thought he was a great character, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The last book that I read is Make Me Bad by R.S. Gray, and this counts for the bad boy romance trope. And this is about a girl named Madison who just turned 25 years old, and on her birthday she blows out the candle on her cake, and she wishes that her next year of her life will be more exciting because she's lived a pretty sheltered existence. Her dad and brother are cops, and they're always protecting her. She hasn't even lost her V card, and she just hasn't really lived a lot. And so she wishes that she will live a more exciting life. Well, on her way home from work that evening, she basically gets held at gunpoint by a man in the street, and some man on the street comes to her rescue and saves her, and it's a man named Ben Rosenberg, and he is well known around town as being a bad boy and kind of spoiled, a well-to-do type of guy, but he got in a lot of trouble as a teenager. For that reason, Madison's dad really doesn't like him. And the 2 people think they're never going to see each other again. Madison moves on with her life, and Ben kind of moves on with his, but they're brought back together when he has to do community service at the local library, and it happens that Madison works at the library. So they are brought back together, and Madison has this funny idea that she wants him to teach her how to be bad, because clearly he knows how to be bad and she doesn't, because she's so innocent. And it's their romance, and I enjoyed it. It was probably one of my least favorite R.S. Gray books that I've read out of the 4 that I've read. And I think R.S. Gray does enemies to lovers really well, but the other tropes that I've read by R.S. Gray I haven't loved. So I think I'm going to stick to more of R.S. Gray's enemies to lovers books. Just this one didn't quite work for me. I didn't love Madison as a character, and the overall plot line just didn't work for me, and I really didn't like Madison's family. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. So those are all the books that I had read for Smutathon. Like I said, I'm going to link these all down below, and my vlog for Smutathon will be up on Wednesday, and I will see you guys on my next one. Bye.